Okay, this is Scott Green. We're going to demonstrate to you today about shock absorbers and how they work. The first thing I'd like to do, though, is explain to you the misconception that we have about shock absorbers. Most people think that a shock absorber is designed to hold the car up to maintain the level of the car. This happens to me a lot of times. I'll have people that will say, um, you know, my rear end of my car is sitting down too low. Do you think I need some more shock absorbers? Well, shock absorbers don't handle the level of the car. All the shock absorbers do is obtain the word shock. They stop the shock going down the road of the car. If you hit a bump, you don't feel the shock, basically is what it is. The springs on the car is what maintains the level of the vehicle and keeps that level of that vehicle in the position you need. So all the shock absorbers are designed for is ride and ride convenience for the owner of the vehicle. Now, I want to explain to you some different kinds of shock absorbers and different types and how we're going to put these on. We're going to actually demonstrate to you on a car how to put them on. This shock absorber here that's on this table is one we've taken off of a truck, and you can see that this is a factory shock absorber. It has no covering on the shaft here. This shaft has to stay straight and clean, which is kind of hard to do, especially on an all-terrain vehicle. But you'll notice there's rubber bushings in here in this end, and also rubber bushings on the other end. And on this other end here, if you'll notice, these rubber bushings are in pretty bad shape. They actually are cracked and spread out, and they're in real bad shape, so they need replacing, as well as the shock absorber being bad. It's not giving the ride like we want on the car. I'm going to demonstrate to you how the ride of the car works. What happens is, the way you test the shock absorber to see if it's any good is you need to leave it on the car and use your body weight to test the shock absorber. So what you do is you vigorously shake the car. You mash down on the front bumper of the corner of the car where you're going to be working on that shock absorber, and you bounce the car as hard as you can and then let go. And when you let go, the car should go down, up, and then back to the middle position. In other words, down, up, down. It should stop immediately and not go down, up, down, up, down, up, and then fade out. That's a bad shock absorber. You should see just a down, up, and stop. And that's it, just one motion of the shock absorber, and it should go away. Now, these new type of shock absorbers we've got here it's an Aftermarket brand. They've got a rubber boot over the metal section so that they won't get damaged, because these are actually going on an all-terrain vehicle or a four-wheel drive vehicle that's taken in rough terrain and rough areas. So here's a little bit higher level shock absorber. And if you'll notice on one side also, it has an adjustable shock absorber unit. We can turn this and give it a firmer ride if we want to, or a rougher ride if we want to. This is designed so that you can use it in the wooded areas or either on a road, either one. It doesn't matter. This is a rear shock absorber. Most of the time, a rear shock absorber is going to have a hole in the bottom and a hole in the top, like you saw on that old shock there that we just took off. We had taken off. Now, this shock absorber here on the front, right here, that's not assembled yet. The rubber boot goes on it. It actually goes up on this top end, and the way we assemble it, I'm going to show you the assembly process. What we do is we turn this and release the shock so that it can extend itself. This is a gas shock absorber. It will extend all the way out on its own. And then what we'll do is we'll install this rubber boot over this. All you do is just use a zip tie for this end, zip tie it around the end, and then this end fits over this little collar right here on this end, so that it protects this completely. And then when we assemble the shock absorber, when we put it on, I'm going to kind of hold this up in the air a little bit. The way you assemble it is you put a washer on the top like this. The right washer. There's two of them. Oh, that's the right one. Let me see. There we go. Put the washer on there. Then you put a rubber insulator, and then you put it up through the frame of the car. The frame will go right here. It goes up through the frame, and then after you get the frame, up through the frame, then you put another insulator on top of it. Then you'll have the space between here where the frame would be, and I'll demonstrate that on the car. And then we put another washer right on top of that, and then we put our nut. And some of you probably say, how tight do you tighten this nut? Well, the best way I can say this is just enough. I know there's not a torque for it, because what you're looking for is for this rubber bushing and this rubber bushing to squish just a little bit. I'd like to get just a little bit of a squish on this side and on this side of the rubber washer. So just kind of watch it as you tighten it up. And when you tighten this nut down, what's going to happen is the whole shock's going to want to turn. So if you'll notice, the end of the shock actually has a squared off top so that we can put a wrench on here and hold this while we tighten the nut on down. And that puts the top half of the shock absorber on, and then the bottom half of the shock is just like the rear shock is. You put it through a hole, you stick a bolt and a nut through it. And we'll demonstrate that when we start installing the shock absorbers.